Let's kick off the work session for Monday, October 20th at 4:30 p.m. to talk about redistricting the voting districts.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, I'm going to turn to Blake. You guys remember Blake and Caroline? They're back, and I'm going to turn it over to them.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. The best that I can see you. So it's actually really hard for us to tell who's talking. So it may be helpful as we get into it if you could identify yourself, at least the first few times until we remembered voices and that sort of thing. But good to see you all. We are here with 3 plans that Blake has put together. Just a reminder that the contract that we have with you all is to provide 3 plans, but that doesn't mean that you have to pick one of these plans. If you've got changes, we can work with it a little bit. We can make changes. We can do totally different things if you don't like what you see and you want something totally different. Tonight is just to look at those and to talk about them. You don't have to make any decisions tonight. Also, remember that you're not actually making the decision. That these are the districts that will go into place, because you've got that second step that's got to happen where it goes to a referendum for the voters to look at and approve. And that would be next November. So this is still sort of preliminary. We've got plenty of time. You've got plenty of time to get public comment and feedback at a public hearing on these, and then get them over to the Board of Elections so they can be printed on the November ballots. And at some point you will have to vote on a resolution approving one of these that then calls for that special election. And I think that's it as far as just initial kickoff things. At the end, we'll sort of regroup on what happens next. But at this point, I will turn it over to Blake.
All right. Thank you, Caroline. And as I'm bringing up my slides again, I did want to also point out, just a reminder, that these districts would not go into place were they to be approved in the referendum. They would not actually be used for an election until 2028. I know there's been coverage in the news about the congressional districts that are being proposed at the General Assembly. If those are finally approved, and I know that one of the districts that's being proposed to be changed involves Currituck County. So just a reminder that while that may be happening, this process would not have people voting in different districts for the Board of Commissioners until 2028. All right, so I know it's been a little while since we saw you, so I'm going to do a little bit of review. So in the 2.5 months, actually, I've learned some things, and this has been a really fun process. I wanted to start by saying that I just think there have been a lot of interesting things because of the geography of the county and the situation. It's been an interesting puzzle. And you'll see, even in this review, there'll be some new material that hasn't come up before. So this is the status quo. This is familiar. Again, right now, the districts are numbered sort of in like a clock. We go clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to add in now, you can see the precinct boundaries. And probably folks are familiar with this, but just as a reminder, District 1 has 4 precincts. District 2 has basically 1.5. District 3 has essentially 1.5. But you'll notice that Poplar Branch Precinct and the Coinjock Precinct are split here and here under the existing residency districts. And then Districts 4 and 5 each are made up of 2 precincts. This, again, you've seen a map like this before. This shows where the current incumbents live. The A's are for at large, and the numbers indicate the number of the district that each incumbent represents. And then this, of course, this bar chart represents the challenge, which is that for election districts, unlike residency districts, they all have to have a population that's balanced and that is between the dotted line and the dashed line here and here. And just as a reminder, these are quite out of balance, and you can see that it's districts 1 and 2 that need to add population, and that population, as well as probably 3. I'll talk in a little bit about the reason that these bars are uneven, but the population needs to be coming out of districts 4 and 5. And just as a sort of visual here, District 5 has about 150% of the ideal district population. District 4 has about 125% of the ideal district population, just to give you a sense of the scale of the changes that need to be made. This is one of the slides that has new information since I saw you last. So this came out from North Carolina OSBM in September, less than a month ago. And I don't know if folks saw this, but
Can't see it either way now.
No,
It's too small.
it's too small. Okay, well, I'll cover the thank you for pointing that out. I'll cover the high points here. Basically, this is from the state demographer, and they're looking at population changes from 2020 to 2024, not even this year, looking at up to July 1st of 2024. And Currituck was the 3rd fastest growing county in the state, with nearly 16% increase just from 2020 to 2024. And that was about, this number circled here is 4,443 people added just in those 4 years. That's not even bringing us up to the current day. So on top of the imbalance that we saw in the previous slide, we've got to consider that there are thousands of new population. And again, I should point out that those numbers from the state demographer are estimates. We don't have those at the block level. We can't use those for redistricting, but it does give us a sense of the scale of change. And I have some additional information on an upcoming slide that helps us see where that growth is happening. So new considerations, as we're going from the status quo, the residency districts, to true election districts, is that we have to use, one of the new considerations is that we have to use census blocks. And so that means actually including the water. So unlike the maps I was showing before, where the water was not colored in, we have to actually color in the entire precinct, including the water, including the blocks that don't have population, but might have unpopulated land or unpopulated water. So that looks a little different. Another census block detail that's important to remember is that there are, the residency districts split census blocks, they divide them. So you can see that between the green and the orange here, it's cutting across this block, and this block, which are very long north to south, which makes it hard to do a clean kind of east to west line here across the Poplar Branch precinct. And then this block here is also divided. And because these blocks are divided, and because the census count's finest unit of counting is the census block, we can't get an accurate population count, which is for districts 2 and 3, which is why I have this bar showing sort of the lowest possible number and the highest possible number for each. And going forward with the new election districts, we also cannot split these census blocks. And the census blocks actually include some other long ones here that are divided that are just water. They don't involve population, but it's important. You'll see, I mean, this one over here extends the entire height of the Poplar Branch precinct. And so that may help explain some of the shapes that we'll be seeing in the draft plans. Another consideration is that where incumbents live, as we saw in an earlier map, there's one of the districted incumbents in each of the residency districts. And because we're looking at not putting more than one incumbent in any of the new districts, that it's important to know where they are. It's also important to note, and it's a little clearer, I think, on the next slide, that this is commissioner payment in District 3 is kind of right between two of these long census blocks that extend pretty far north and south. And so that was we talked about this at the last meeting, that makes it tricky to draw a dividing line that looks like the existing one. And then another consideration that we learned about in the last meeting is that Commissioner Jarvis is not going to be running for re-election in 2028. So in this map, I have removed that star because there won't be an incumbent for District 2 to be concerned about as far as pairing incumbents. Okay, the next slide here, this is something that I think has been in all the previous presentations. Just a reminder, the ideal district population is the total county population divided by 5, and then we have plus or minus 5% deviation. So this slide is showing the populations by precinct, and I think it's just helpful as a reminder that can folks read these numbers?
No, but
Okay, I will. That's is the slide picking up your whole screen? I'm just wondering if there's anything I can do to make it. I know I can zoom in. I don't know.
Version of Teams, Blake, and it's there.
I can see that.
There you go.
Can we go to the?
It's not
That
working.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
Well,
see that.
for the this is just a fraction of the slide. I'll zoom back out. But what I was going to point out is that just a reminder that just because a precinct is big, like Whalehead, covers a lot of area, or that's probably the best example. It may have a much smaller population. For example, all 4 of these, the precincts that make up District 1, current residency District 1, total up, they add up to less than the population of just this little East Moyock precinct area here. And the next slide shows these in terms of percentages, and it also has the bar chart again. So we can kind of see there's some interesting, this was a very helpful slide for me as I was preparing. So it's, for example, the West Moyock precinct, and I'll zoom in again so you can see these numbers. So this is West Moyock, almost a full district's population just in that one precinct. The courthouse precinct actually has, because of the plus or minus 5% wiggle room, the courthouse precinct has enough population to be a district all by itself. And the Poplar Branch precinct also is just about enough population to be a district all by itself. And another thing that I thought was interesting here, I mentioned before that District 1 is 150%. Here, let me zoom in again so you can see. Simple math, these add up to about 150%, a little more. These 2, which are essentially District 4, add up to 125%. And then if you add in the Coinjock precinct here, these 5 precincts, which are essentially the northern mainland, the part north of the Coinjock Canal, have 60% of the county's population. So there could be 3 districts just made up from these 5 precincts. Okay. All right, so at the last meeting, we talked about the required principles as well as the principles that boards like yourselves can identify to use as the guiding principles, or the criteria that we prioritize in terms of how to make decisions when drawing the maps. And the principles that were identified were retaining the current configuration to the extent possible, avoiding the pairing of incumbents, trying to keep the populations of the districts in the Northwest lower than the ideal population, using that plus or minus 5% wiggle room to set those lower, because we know of the additional population, the additional development in the Moyock area. Keeping precincts whole to the extent possible, and also following natural boundaries and physical features such as major roads, waterways, visible features, things like that, again, to the extent possible. And some new information since I was there, the Census Bureau released new information on new homes. So these are housing units, could be apartments, could be freestanding homes, but I do want to emphasize this is not an indication of residence. The Census Bureau is keeping track of building permits and things like that and understands when new homes have been occupiable. And so I thought this was interesting. Again, each circle represents the number for a block. The larger the circle, the larger the number. This largest circle you see here in the East Moyock precinct is the Waterley development, I believe it's called. And I was intrigued to see, as I've been hearing, yes, definitely a lot of development in the Moyock area. You all probably know exactly which subdivisions these are, but also a not insignificant amount in Poplar Branch. So these are the number of homes in the precincts that had the highest numbers of new homes. And Poplar Branch is not that far behind West Moyock. But still, East Moyock and West Moyock are certainly the ones that have the most new homes. I'll just very briefly remind you of an analogy I used before. This is kind of like shopping for a vehicle. If you've got multiple guidelines like we do, if you think about something like trying to get, great fuel efficiency, but you also want to have good ground clearance for driving off-road and want to be able to haul construction equipment, and you want to be able to park in a small parking space and have an easily accessible vehicle for somebody with reduced mobility. It's going to be very hard to find a vehicle that's going to meet all of those standards. Essentially, it's going to be impossible. So there have to be compromises. If you're hoping for the GMC Yukon, it's because of the other sort of competing criteria and just the constraints with all the population change, that's unlikely. And what we're going to end up with is going to be a compromise on some of those standards, like a crossover vehicle, if you will. But in this case, we would get the crossover vehicle with the all-wheel drive. I know that's significant if you want to be in Currituck County. Okay, and so I'm just about to get to the drafts, the exciting part, but I did want to say I won't be saying for any of the three draft plans these following things because it's true for all of them. So, and I didn't even list it on here, but all of them comply with population equality. That's a requirement. All of them are contiguous. In other words, they don't have separated parts that aren't connected. But in addition, all of them avoid the pairing of incumbents. All of them are drawn such that the districts that include the northern and western or northwesternmost parts of the county, the Moyock area, have lower populations to accommodate that growth that we know is happening, and anticipating that in the next census, the districts won't be as out of balance as they could be. And then also all of them, I was able in almost every case to have if it's splitting a precinct, it's following a major road or railroad tracks or the canal or something like that. So avoiding having convoluted boundaries. Okay, so now we can move into the three drafts. I'm calling them options A, B, and C. And this slide has a lot of information, and I'll kind of walk through it. I'll start with the bar chart here. You can see that districts 4 and 5, which are the ones that take up most of East Moyock and West Moyock, are very low. We can look at the deviation too on this bar chart. Here you can see that 5 is right at negative 5% deviation. And you can also see that District 5 extends a little bit into the East Moyock precinct, and District 4 is at negative 4.84. And the next lowest one is District 1, next lowest population, which also includes parts of East Moyock, although it does not include that Waterley development. I'm going to actually back up a minute because there's something I had meant to mention when we were looking at the Here we go. Just a reminder that because green and purple, in other words, District 1 and District 2 have the lowest populations, they're going to need to extend toward the ones that have the high populations. So you'll see that the three different options are various ways to extend Districts 1 and 2. And in the sort of example I provided, a very drafty example that I provided at the previous meeting, you saw that there was kind of a domino effect where District 2 had to extend up into District 3. So that meant taking a population away from District 3. So District 3 had to not only make up the population that was taken away, but also add population to get it to being close enough to the ideal population, which that meant going into District 4. So District 4 had to extend north. So there was kind of a domino effect in the designs that I showed last meeting. And some of the options you'll see tonight have slightly different approaches. So looking now at option A, you can see that this is similar to the ones that I showed you in August. District 1 extends, it gains the population that it needs by extending into East Moyock. District 2 extends farther north into the Poplar Branch precinct to get the population it needs, which means that District 3, which had, in the residency district only includes Poplar Branch, part of Poplar Branch and part of Coinjock, extends up into both Indian Ridge and Courthouse. District 4 has to extend into East Moyock as well. So there are 7 precincts that have no change or very little change. There are 3 precincts that are split that are listed here. I'm happy to point out those splits if it's hard to see. Why don't I do that? Just since the details may be hard to see. So Poplar Branch precinct is split here between Districts 2 and 3. The Courthouse precinct is split here between Districts 3 and 4, and East Moyock is split between Districts 4 and 5 there, and between Districts 1 and 5 there. We've talked at previous meetings about how there's no road connection through the county between East Moyock and Gibbs Woods. There are kind of cultural differences that the Gibbs Woods, Knott's Island, off-road area precincts have a different vibe, if you will, than the Moyock area. But this is sort of using the minimal change approach, going from a district that had low population, District 1, into a district that was very overpopulated. This is what might seem like the most intuitive approach. District 2 here includes the west side of the Poplar Branch precinct. This is something we talked about in the August meeting, with the major division being along Currituck Highway. And the Courthouse precinct division is also along Currituck Highway. If it's, I'm happy to zoom in if folks would like to, but I'll also show later in the presentation, I'll be showing you an interactive map. I've made another interactive map for the web that lets you zoom in and turn layers on and off and things like that. But I think even if it's hard to see details, hopefully this map makes it easier to see kind of this on the left side is the existing situation, and on the right is the option A draft. Again, you can see that District 2, Green District, extends north. District 1 extends west.
What's the one that I'm saying is different?
3 is really reaching all over the place.
Yeah. Has 3 and 4.
Yep. And so I'm hearing this, and I appreciate that. You're anticipating. I also have a slide. If people like the side by side, I think some people, for them, that's easier. This is an attempt to sort of show both the old and the new at the same time. So here, and the text here explains it, but basically if it's a solid background color, the background color is the proposed district. The dots are what the existing district is, what would be sort of the older district. If you think about Hansel and Gretel leaving behind breadcrumbs, it's like the old district is leaving behind breadcrumbs. And if you don't see any dots, that means that no changes are proposed. So like if you can see, as someone I think was pointing out, that there's a lot of new orange here in what had been the yellow area. And you can see, for example, most of the East Moyoc precinct is either moving from what had been Residency District 5 into Election District 1 or Election District 4. And you are observant, and it's good to point out that, yes, this does mean significant changes for districts 3 and District 4. District 4 is formerly included all of Indian Ridge, but now would not include any, and a substantial portion of the courthouse precinct is also taken away, and so District 4 has to move up into East Moyoc. But it does, in terms of area, this option involves the least change in area for District 1 and District 2. So that's the consideration. And then option 5 is sort of a tie as far as how much change there is for District 5. As we've seen, District 5 just needs to lose people, so it's not going to have to extend into new territory. It needs to have territory or population assigned to other districts. I'm happy to come back to these, or if people want me to zoom in on the deviations, but hopefully you can see enough the bar chart. Again, the northwesternmost districts have the lowest population, as we've discussed.
But I think the main thing is too, like, you're going to have so many people, they're not going to know where to go to vote. I mean, they don't even know now, and they've lived here.
So I understand that there's a motivation, and it's
Voted the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, the ballot, the precincts, the voting places will still stay the same. It's just, well, this will, you'd be voting for, this one, there's 6 precincts. This has changed that, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Shall I go ahead with option B, or did folks want to look at that previous slide with option A?
Are you crazy? Just go ahead with B right now.
Okay. So this one takes a different approach. Instead of having District 2 move up into get the population it needs all from Poplar Branch, it's this is,
you can't expect, with all the water and all this stuff, that whoever had District 2 would be a nightmare.
I used to have from the Corn Jock Bridge south and Corolla when there was 5 commissioners.
Well, it's not many people.
I mean, that's a lot.
So-
You have to come up all the way to courthouse, Corolla. I mean, that's a lot.
so my understanding was that historically there were times when the lower Currituck area was paired with the so-called beach precincts with Corolla and the off-road area. In terms of driving, my understanding after having talked with staff is that it's actually easier to get from Powell's Point by car to these than getting from, say, Gibbs Woods or East Moyoc. That the driving connection is I mean, you all know it better than I do for sure, but this is partly based on the conversation with staff, and again, my understanding of that historically these have been grouped together, and like the Poplar Branch Township used to include these precincts as well as the Whalehead precinct. So if this is unacceptable, I understand that there's as I tried to say with the car analogy, there's not going to be an option that's going to make everyone happy. So what this does do is this has the fewest precinct splits. So the only precincts that get split are Poplar Branch and Indian Ridge. This actually changes districts 3 and 4 less than the previous option, option A. Again, these precinct splits follow prominent roads or railroads. So in this case, as you can see, there's 6. The option A has 7 precincts that have no change or very little change. This one has 6 precincts with no change or very little change. As folks have pointed out, they're basically District 1, which let me go to the next slide. Currently, District 1 is these 4 precincts, and it's either got to grow over here or it's got to grow down. And by growing this option B is able to include entire precincts here. So there's not, East Moyock is not being divided. The District 4, you can see here, the yellow district is able to keep all of, this is the one where it's the least change to District 4 because it's just some of the Indian Ridge part is being taken away. District 4 doesn't have to extend into new territory. And District 3 is getting part of Indian Ridge, which is a less populous precinct, but less change to, it kind of keeps, the central part here is less changed, but that does mean more changes to the eastern part, certainly. Option B, here again, the dots are representing where the change is. So as we've discussed, you can see these precincts would change, this precinct would change, this precinct would change, and this would change, but 6 precincts would have 0 or either no change or very little change. And again, in this case, the districts that would be in the Moyock area, District 1 and District 5, have their populations are right near the bottom level, the lowest, or yeah, the lowest population that's within acceptable deviation range. Okay. Option C then takes a different approach where instead of having, this is something that wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the fact that Commissioner Jarvis will not be running for re-election, and so there's not an incumbent in Powell's Point. So unlike the other two where District 1 extends west into the East Moyock precinct, this has District 1 extending down into Powell's Point. And also because it's required to have contiguity, in other words, have these be connected, and just connecting at a point is not sufficient. These blocks, the eastern part of Poplar Branch is included, but those have 0 population. So even though it is dividing Poplar Branch precinct, there are no residents that would be actually reassigned to District 1 in the Poplar Branch precinct. And then what this does, as folks have probably already noticed, and maybe it'll be, I'll leave it on this slide for now, but it'll be maybe more clear when we look at the two side by side. Normally, the next lowest or southern district here would be District 2, the green district, but because there's an incumbent here from Residency District 3 who is up for re-election in 2026, and District 2 is not up for re-election until 2028, having this be District 2 which would be more logical given the sequence, would not make sense. It would create a double incumbency situation in 2026.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay, for a minute. This is Mike, District 3. If you were not considering any of the commissioners and where they lived, and that was all that the equation, would this be easier to divide up in districts, keeping everything closer together? Without you having to try to play with existing commissioners and all that, or?
That's a great question. I would say a little bit, a tiny bit, but compared to other maps, other counties, other jurisdictions where I've worked, they're actually, the distribution is such that I did not find it to be a significant constraint. I mean,
making it more complicated now. It doesn't sound like it was that what you're saying.
Not so much. Not so much. No, but I think it's a great question because there are other times I'm thinking of one area in Western North Carolina in particular where it was a enormous constraint. But yeah, not so much here.
Let me ask a question. This is Paul.
Yes.
Would splitting it up with 6 districts and 1 at large make it easier to equalize and keep things closer together?
It's actually going to involve more change, having 6 districts. And I can go back to some of the previous slideshows, but because you end up having a situation where a bunch, well, those 3, the West Moyock, the courthouse, and the Poplar Branch precincts all have they would have populations over an ideal district population, and while it would make District 1's the existing District 1 population closer to the ideal, District 1's population, as you recall, is only about 60% of what it should be. So even if we're dividing the population of the county by 6 as opposed to 5, District 1 is still going to have to extend out into East Moyock. I can, if you'd like, I can bring up one of the previous slides where I had sort of an example of what a 6-district plan might look like. But I think the answer, I'm confident the answer to your question is that a 6-district plan would actually be kind of more disruptive.
Okay, the only reason I ask that is you obviously have huge population problems in the northern end of the county. That is making it really difficult for you to figure out how to split this up. But if you don't think 6 districts will make it easier, I'm fine with the 5. I'm going to be gone too. So okay. Whatever.
And that's a good segue into one thing that I was going to point out here. You may remember that I mentioned earlier tonight that earlier this evening that these 5 precincts alone are 60% of the county's population. And what this does, because there's not an incumbency to consider for District 2, this essentially is bringing a district into this area, which allows all of District 1 to stay unchanged. I'm sorry, all of the existing precincts in District 1 to stay unchanged. Obviously, it has to add population, but it does that by adding the population in Powell's Point. District 3, which currently occupies part of Poplar Branch and part of Coinjock, would again occupy part of Poplar Branch and part of Coinjock. District 4 would be pretty similar. Granted, this is a big change in that District 2 is moving from being the southern part of Lower Currituck to up here, but in thinking about sort of moving forward and after the 2030 census and what the if 60% of the population essentially is all in the northern mainland, does it make sense to have 3 districts that are in that northern mainland area rather than like options B and C are having districts 1 and districts 3 taking significant population in that area? This to me seemed like an option that would provide, without having an incumbent whose district would change radically, this would create a situation where it takes into account the new population. And yes, it is the one that would involve the most people being reassigned, especially since this district can't be called District 2. It has to be District 3. But it prevents after 2030 a situation where you're just sort of doing another kind of Band-Aid solution. But I understand that adding Powell's Point to District 1 isn't ideal, but neither is adding East Moyock to District 1. So all of these, as I said, involve their trade-offs, their compromises, their downsides. So let me just allow you to see this side by side. So this, obviously it's a big change again for the Green District, but it does actually mean that the changes for the other districts are in some ways less significant. And then we have this option as well for seeing exactly where things change, where you see the dots. Again, this arguably does have the least change for District 5. My point that I'm making down here at the bottom of the slide on the right is that all of these residents in East Moyock and Indian Ridge are getting reassigned, if not all of them. Most of the residents of the East Moyock and Indian Ridge precincts are getting assigned differently in the other options as well, as are people in Poplar Branch.
So, and then I'm going to make a comment. I think the constituents and other commissioners can chime in from what I've heard. What they were probably assuming could happen easily was just keep the existing districts as they were, but just allow them to vote in their district. I don't think they're anticipating all these different cutoff lines, sections off, removing it. I think once they realize, oh, this is changing, they'll probably have a conniption. And they realize, I think they were thinking something simple, that Moyock votes for Moyock.
I think, this is Selena, I think down my way, any of the options would be preferable to what we have now. Because they feel like, and it's true, I spent most of my time up in Moyock campaigning. And I think that any of the options would be preferable in my district. If you asked anybody, they would prefer that to what we currently.
Oh, I think they want to vote in their district. I'm just, when they see all these different lines, these chopping blocks, they're probably going to have a lot of questions.
See, a lot have to be messaging about they just have to understand that it's got to be based on population, that every district has to have basically the same amount of people. I think when you see a map like
what is your area going to think about their representative living at Mount Island?
Oh, I didn't say C was the best choice.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
I think they, once again, I think they would prefer even option C. I think option B and C might be a tough pill to swallow for who's representing them, but I don't think it'll be a tough sell to people in my neck of the woods, because once again, it's still going to be upon the person campaigning to spend the time in the district.
Yeah, because the person who wins in the future wins District 1 could be living in Powell's Point.
Right.
And then it would represent
And
them.
then what's Mount Island going to say?
Well, they'll have a better chance and have more say with any of these maps than they would now.
Yeah.
They they at least know
Yeah, Laura.
that person's their voice.
I mean, honestly, like, you know, if I drive to Corova after I drive through Virginia and every other district the county has, I drive through Powell's Point before I get to Corova.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't like C, but I agree wholly with you. I think I mean, nobody likes change, but that's part of it, right? We're changing the way that we're representing people, so therefore there has to be change in that process.
I think you're right, though, that people think that they're just going, it's not gonna be all this change of the map.
Well, if they want to vote for their representative,
Then it
there's
has
got
to
to be
be.
a change. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly.
Messaging. I mean, you know, I think we have to, and they have the right to say no. That's the beauty of putting this to a referendum.
Yeah.
After we try to explain it, if they decide they don't want it, then
I still think even if you don't change it, there needs to be change, even if you continue to vote at large, Moyoc still has too large of a district compared to the rest of the county.
I agree.
Even if
Absolutely.
you don't change the way we vote, Moyoc is far too representative of the county by population
I mean,
versus everywhere else.
He said it's a district and a half in population.
Yeah,
so that's, I mean, people down my way,
I really resent it.
they do resent it. They resent the fact that when Mike and I campaign, we spend all our time in the northern end.
Yeah.
I mean, we do, I mean, I know Mike will do meet and greets and things like that, but when the rubber hits the road, if you know that that's a district and a half, you're gonna spend your time in Moyoc.
Well, you're trying to get to know those people. Yeah, and like.
Well,
you
you're really
said,
trying to win their vote. Let's call it what it is.
Right.
You're
but you
really
don't
trying to get
know
their
all
vote.
those people, you know, especially with so many moving
Well,
in.
luckily I work all over runners, so I see customers all the time, so.
Hopefully you don't get offended. You ain't gonna worry about it, right?
Do you have a slide that has all three options side by side?
I do not, but it would not be hard for me to provide that and send that as a PDF. Not hard at all, but that's also a good segue to the interactive map, which lets you, it's all one map, so you can't see them side by side, but let me.
Can you put A back up there again?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Can we, it might be easier.
Oh, what?
Can we?
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Can we go to that URL quick? Because we'll probably be able to see that URL on full screen as opposed to a shared screen.
That had 7 precincts.
Dinner.
So I'm gonna just stop sharing this window and I'll share the URL so that I can kind of give a demo of the interactive map. It's should be straightforward and familiar to folks who've used web maps before. It's the same kind of thing where you can use your scroll button to zoom in and out, or you can use the zoom in, the plus and minus down here right now. I realize it may be hard to see, but this is option A is the one that's turned on. There's some little instructions here explaining that if you want to hide it, you hover over and there's a little eye here. And if you click on it, it'll go from an open eye to a closed eyelid, and we can look at option B. Same thing for option C.
Oh,
And you can toggle them on and off, and I've also got the existing residency districts here. So compare with that. There's also this magnifying glass down at the bottom. If I search, for example, for the Currituck County Library, and then I can zoom and see, it'll show me exactly what district that's in. And if to zoom back out, also, I can just hover over any of these and it says zoom to fit. So it'll just take us out back to the entire thing, the entire extent. It's also got precinct boundaries that you can turn on the same way if you want to see. There they are. They were on, sorry, they were already on. I just, let me go back to option A. You can also search for an address here. I used a landmark that used the library before, but I'm going to do, for example, 153 Courthouse Road, Currituck. So anyway, you can, similar to how you would in Google Maps or something like that. And then again, so
Right?
What?
Yeah.
Orange.
Orange is me, yeah.
See, I don't care if they do away with my at large and just let Kevin keep
No,
running
this is what
until he
that looks
does.
like.
So-
if you remember.
So if we look at 6, this was the preliminary that he did.
This is 2.
It looks almost just like that, except
5 is a lot smaller.
5 is smaller.
6
And
is
4 is a lot smaller. It kind of just snakes along the east.
And
area.
another one?
This is the.
Remember the
one- this
original
is
one that
the-
we had?
not.
That's what the one with 6 looked like.
So now, minus the bottom jaggedness,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
What's your problem with, do you have an issue with that?
I don't have an issue with it, no. I mean, either that or that.
So where
Neither
2
one
and
of
3
them
are
is wrong.
jagged, disregard that.
First
because
time
that was
I've
because of the census
Does he have that up there?
B
And
and
he
C.
And he didn't want to pair
I say.
Mike and Selena together, so he had to make it look jagged.
4 is a little bit tiny.
We're looking at something, the last meeting we had,
yeah, would you like me to bring that up on the screen?
from the last meeting, you had something that was close to this, I think.
You had the 6 district, one with 6 districts. I was just
Yeah,
pulling that up.
I've got that. So
Well,
let me just share.
keep option A, maybe do option A, 6 style.
6 districts with option A and just have one at large.
Yeah, or keep option A with 5 and then do option B with 6.
Each district.
Two options, because we don't like
You don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
3 is great.
C's.
C seems weird.
C would be the worst, he would be the worst.
I got a little bit.
C
Like I
would
said,
be
I don't want
bad.
to go with
They
Modoc
would
at all
not be happy.
with C.
Yeah. And I
So-
think it still gives them a.
People would be kind of similar to.
It would
A is
be the
close.
easiest to
Well, yeah.
understand.
For most of them, you're keeping your.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think
A
keeping
is least.
people right
Oh, what?
messaging.
Like
I
I've
think
got it if you want me to pull it
No,
up.
I've got it up right now. Yeah. Thanks.
So where are we at now?
They fit together.
Okay. Is this the one that you're?
The
We're
sixth
Um,
gonna talk about the web map that you had, but that'll work.
Yeah, the 6th district is what they were, the middle one.
The middle one.
We were just toying with the idea of what the 6 would look like if it was kind of based roughly off of what you had option A. Sorry, but this is Tony Blake. But no, 6, like, so if we did A, but we had 6 districts and only 1 at large, you know?
Could you tweak with 6
But
different?
that's what Paul was asking earlier, and he said 6 districts.
He asked if it would be easier.
But can you do something for us with 6 districts and 1 at large?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's,
Kind of like
So
an
the-
A, this, the middle one, and we're just seeing if we could take A, make it a 6 district with 1 at large.
I get your point.
Either 6
Well,
district.
no. Well, just give us some
So-
options.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, give us options with 6 districts and 1 at large.
Like the problem I think most of us are running into is culturally, Knott's Island, Corolla, Corova, and Gibbs Woods kind of fit together.
There's other areas of Currituck.
I'm trying to give some of that back to Virginia Beach and some of it there.
Difference in
And,
A and B is.
and as for the at-large that you can do away with, you can hot bump me with somebody else and not worry about it. And leave Kevin, because he's gonna run for another 70 years, but I'm not.
okay. And that was Paul speaking? Commissioner
Yes.
O'Neill? Okay, thank you.
I'm in the Mike Payments District, but don't worry about putting me in his district.
And don't
Okay,
worry
and then-
about
there's also additional flexibility. I would imagine, Commissioner Payment, that if we're looking at the 6th district plan that I've got up on the screen now, that you would rather be in the green part than the purple part.
No, because if this wouldn't be elected until 2028, it's not gonna carry to me one bit or other, because I'm not gonna run past 28 anyways.
He runs in
I
20,
run 2026.
so
And on that term, that might be it anyway, so I'm done, so that wouldn't, if that's what it takes to do it, I don't care.
Okay.
So
But
maybe-
there would, as I understand it, Commissioner Payment, you would be running in 2026 for a term that would go until 2030. There may be a period when your district would have some overlap with the new.
Effective 2030, which I'm not running 2030, I'll be too old.
Okay.
So
I
can
think
I
what
just
would-
ask, I want to make
What?
sure we're clear on that, because that does, I think, make a difference. So if Commissioner Payment is not going to run after 2026, then we don't need to worry about him as far as protecting.
Are you running on 26?
So
Maybe.
I think if we had option A that you presented today and an option with a similar option with six districts, I think that's all we would really need. I don't
Yes,
think we
please.
really need to see anything like B and C. I think the consensus here is B and C don't work. We're okay with your option A today, but we would like to see what that looks like with with 6 districts.
Got it.
How similar it is.
And don't worry about District 3 or payment, because by the time, if this even gets approved by the people that vote on it, it ain't gonna bother me anyway, so.
Yeah, we really don't want to worry about the incumbent.
Yeah,
so much.
that's what I was asked the question.
Right,
earlier.
yeah.
What's right for, or what's best for the constituents to make this smoother? That's what's, to me, it's gotta come first, so.
Got it.
Just do some 6 district with 1 at large, give us some options with that. And nothing's off the table yet, but just give us some options.
So, yeah, don't worry, the District 3, draw it as you feel it needs to be drawn.
go to 11
Um,
district.
Silver market again.
Well, you know, maybe not may incorporate and it'll be less important.
That's right, yeah. Let them double the taxes up. The corporations.
I don't want to be in that.
Commissioner O'Neill trying to get the Mike Payment. If there's a run again,
That's all.
Taking them out.
for years.
How's he doing all right?
Are you taking notes or are you waiting on us?
I was taking some notes.
Okay, that's fine.
But I think,
So can I clarify one more thing? It's clear we want to see a 6 district plan that's based on option A, but I also heard we want to see some options. So
They didn't hear what you said. Start over, please.
6 with option A.
yeah, do you want to see one new plan that's 6 districts based on option A, or do you want to see multiple new plans that are 6 districts?
With 6 districts, similar to option A. In other words, don't lump the Moyoc, don't lump Knott's Island and Powell's Point and all of that together. If you can make a 6 district plan similar to option A, I think that's what we really want to see.
And don't worry about District 3 or 2.
If you
Right.
can give us a couple of 6 district options to look at.
No, I don't think we need that. I think we need one 6 district
You don't?
option.
Okay.
No, I think we need one 6 district option that is similar
Hey,
to A that you presented today.
this keeps it pretty close to
Yeah.
this.
I can start with one, and if, as Caroline said, there's time if needed to tinker with that. I do want to point out, you all can still see the screen here. Let me. So this, you can see here that the District 1 part that extends into East Moyock is relatively small. When I was drawing these, I just wanted to remind folks that I was not focusing on keeping the districts that included Moyock on the low end population wise. I think, as I recall, I was going more for balanced population. So if I'm trying to keep the yellow district here and the pink district with lower populations, that might mean that there's a little bit more of District 1 in the East Moyock precinct, just as sort of an example of the kind of change that you might see, that where it would look a little different than what's shown here. Unless you would rather, and I can do, I just want to confirm that having the Moyock precincts having their populations be on the lower side of what's permissible is still a priority.
That is a priority, because that is where the growth is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, yep. And then, like I said, then don't worry about incumbents or whatever.
Yeah.
Just divide up where you think we need to keep it close, yeah. And then where it lies, where it lies.
Okay.
I don't know either.
Caroline, did you want to talk about sort of timeline?
Yeah, I think the next step would be to come back and have a meeting similar to this, but we would be looking at fewer options. And then probably at that meeting, we would talk next steps about public hearing and a potential vote on a resolution. So what we can do is we can work with staff about when it makes sense to come back and get on the agenda again. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Procedurally, does the vote to go to, this isn't residency, what is this one?
Electoral.
Electoral districts. Does that happen and then the districts are voted on, or does all of this happen at once?
That's a good question. It all happens at once. So the resolution would map out what the plan is and include as an attachment to it the plan itself in text form. So you would vote on all of it at once.
But you're right, they could say, no, we do all this, and they said, no.
So we tried.
We gave them an option.
They asked us to do it.
Now they have the option.
And it's up
All
to
right.
them to decide.
Sounds good. We'll wait for the next round.
Any other questions, comments? I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you
you.
all.